"What are you doing here?" Lovely asked curtly, clearly not happy to see him. "I thought we agreed we'd talk," Hans replied, his voice low but firm. "And I thought I told you. There's nothing left for us to talk about," Lovely shot back. "You really think I'm just going to walk away after seeing that kid?" He pressed, frustration tightening his jaw. "Tell me the truth, Lovely. How did all of this start?" Earlier that morning, Hans couldn't stop himself from glancing at the local public school. He had studied there as a child, and so much had changed since then. More classrooms, better facilities, and even a daycare section. Accompanied by the local governor, who admired his father, Don Abel Hidalgo, a former governor himself, Hans planned to improve the school even further. "I'll fund everything," Hans told the governor confidently. "Let's build a library, a computer lab, and a faculty lounge, so teachers don't have to use classrooms as offices." Hans had only returned from abroad the previous day. Though he should have been resting, he felt an urge to walk through his old hometown, to revisit and possibly fulfill his late father's legacy. Their family owned the Hidalgo estate and various businesses around town. Though he'd left at age 20 following his father's death, something inside had pulled him back now. "You're so much like your father," said the governor with a fond smile. "If he were alive, he'd be proud. No interest in running for governor yourself?" Hans chuckled. "You're doing a great job, Governor. I'd rather help without getting into politics." They were about to leave when Hans heard a familiar song, the same lullaby from earlier. It came from the daycare classroom. His heartbeat raced as he stepped closer, peeking through the door to see a vibrant little girl, singing confidently. Her eyes sparkled as she belted out the notes, classmates and teacher beaming with pride. There was something about the girl that struck Hans. He felt an odd, unshakable familiarity. "You okay?" asked the governor. Hans blinked, regaining composure. "Yeah, I'm good." They moved on to meet the school principal and discuss Hans's planned donations. But Hans found himself distracted. His thoughts remained on the little girl who had sung that song. Something about her tugged at his soul. When they returned outside, daycare was letting out. Kids poured out of the building in gleeful chatter, and among them was the girl from earlier. She ran toward a woman standing with her back turned to Hans. "Mom, teacher gave me 3 stars today 'cause I sang our favorite song," she exclaimed proudly. Hans smiled at the joy on her face, but that smile faded when he heard the woman's voice. "You did great, honey," the woman said warmly. It was the same voice he remembered, the same voice from his past. Then the woman turned. Lovely. Hans's breath caught, his heart thundered. He had never imagined she would still be here, let alone be a mother. But the biggest shock, the little girl looked just like him. "Huh, Hans?" Lovely's voice cracked as her eyes locked onto his. She looked completely stunned. Hans didn't say a word, his gaze dropping back to the child, who stared at him curiously, then returned to her. "I think we need to talk," Hans said, voice low and serious. Lovely swallowed hard, avoiding his eyes. "There's nothing to talk about." "Why can't you answer me? You look like you've got a lot to say," Hans insisted, his tone firm. As she tried to pull her daughter away, he gently grabbed her arm. She stopped, hesitantly turning to face him. "I have nothing to say to you." "Then why does it feel like you're hiding something from me?" Hans asked, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Let go of me, Hans," she said quietly. "Did we do something wrong, sir?" Ellie suddenly asked, her little voice full of concern. "Why are you mad at my mum? She's really nice." Hans's face softened, and he forced a small smile. No, sweetheart. Your mum and I, we're friends. Just talking." Ellie just looked up at him, silent. Hans turned his eyes back to Lovely. "We're going to talk, whether you want to or not," he said, in a hushed voice. ensuring the child couldn't hear. Lovely swallowed again and quickly turned, walking away in a hurry, her grip tight on her daughter's hand. Her whole body trembled. She'd always known this day would come, that she and Hans would eventually cross paths again. She just never thought it would be now. "Mum, is that handsome man your friend?" Ellie asked innocently. When Lovely looked down at her daughter's face, so much like Hans's, she finally understood why his reaction had been so strong. "Yes, honey," she replied, her voice carrying a hint of fear. "He's a friend." She couldn't lie forever. Lovely would never forget the first time she met Hans. She had been raised by her aunt after losing her parents in a car accident when she was just a baby. At 16, her aunt passed away from ovarian cancer. Left with no family, she started taking on various jobs to support herself and finish her studies. Eventually, she got hired as a housekeeper at the Hidalgo estate. Don Abel and his wife Farah took a liking to her because of her dedication. They offered her a full-ride scholarship. It was a gift that changed her life. At 18, she met Hans, Don Abel's only child. At first, Hans avoided her. She assumed he believed the ugly rumors around town, accusing her of being Don Abel's mistress because of the kindness shown to her. Then one day, Hans approached her out of nowhere and started a conversation. "Why didn't you introduce me to him, Mom?" Ellie asked, taking her out of her thoughts. Lovely managed a tight smile. I forgot. I was in a rush. I didn't want us to miss out on your favorite treat," she said as they walked. Back then, Hans began spending more time with her. Slowly, he warmed up and eventually courted her. Lovely couldn't deny that she had fallen for him, especially because of his sincerity. She would never forget that one unforgettable night they shared, when she surrendered herself to him. A few weeks later, Don Abel suddenly passed away from a heart attack. Everyone was shocked, even more so when his will revealed that he had left Lovely a sizable piece of land and a considerable amount of money. That reignited the gossip. People assumed the worst. Hans visited her one night to talk. "To stop the gossip, maybe it's better if we just put everything under my name," he suggested. "Don't worry, I'll make sure you're taken care of. I'll help you finish school. We'll do it all together." Lovely had trusted him completely and signed the documents. She had no intention of accepting the inheritance anyway. What she didn't expect was that it would be the last time she'd see Hans. The next day, he and his mother left. He was gone, without a word. She had thought it would just be for a few days. She waited. She believed. She hoped. Then one of her friends, who worked at the mansion, told her what she had overheard. Hans, speaking to their lawyer, claiming that Lovely had just seduced his father for money, and that he would do everything in his power to make sure she got nothing. Lovely was devastated. Weeks later, she found out she was pregnant. She was furious, but above all, she was heartbroken. Still, she decided to raise her child on her own. "Mum, they're out of our favorite treat," Ellie said sadly as they arrived at the local store. Snapping out of her thoughts, Lovely smiled. "That's okay, sweetheart. I'll make you some at home. Is that all right?" Ellie beamed. "Okay." They continued walking home. "Mum, can you introduce me to that handsome man next time?" Ellie asked suddenly. Lovely froze mid-step. "Why do you want to meet him?" "I don't know. I thought he was mad earlier, but he seemed nice. And I don't know why, but I felt happy when I saw him. Is he nice, Mom? Can he be my friend too?" "Yes, sweetheart," Lovely replied, her voice nearly trembling. When they arrived at their small home, her heart skipped a beat, seeing a luxury car parked out front. Hans was standing outside. "Mum, it's the handsome man again," Ellie said cheerfully, pointing. "Hi, I'm Ellie. Can I be your friend?" she repeated with a wide grin. Hans smiled again, but didn't get the chance to reply. "Ellie, go inside," Lovely said quickly, ushering her daughter in. Hans stepped forward. "Tell me the truth, Lovely. She's my daughter, isn't she?" Lovely's eyes closed tight. "She's my daughter," she snapped. "I carried her. I gave birth to her. I raised her. I suffered and struggled on my own. You have no right." Hans stepped back, stunned by the intensity of her voice. Just then, a voice broke the tension. "Lovely, sweetheart, how are you?" asked Farah Hidalgo, Hans's mother, who had suddenly appeared behind them. "What are you doing here, Mom?" Hans asked, surprised. "You looked like you were in a rush earlier, so I followed," she said with a chuckle, before turning her gaze to Lovely. "You've gotten even more beautiful, dear. How are you? Are you teaching now? That was your dream, wasn't it?" Lovely's expression turned stiff. "No, Mom, I didn't finish college, but I'm planning to go back soon." Farah frowned. "What happened?" "My scholarship was revoked," Lovely answered honestly. Despite being pregnant, she had still wanted to study, but the university claimed her sponsorship was cancelled. She thought about becoming a working student, but that wasn't an option anymore. Pregnancy complicated everything. "Why didn't you use the money Don Abel left you?" Farah asked, clearly puzzled. "I never planned on accepting something I didn't earn, and it was taken back anyway," Lovely replied, glaring at Hans. "Taken back? By who?" Farah asked, looking more confused. "Why don't you ask your son?" Lovely said coldly. Farah turned to Hans, alarmed. "What's going on here? He thought I was his dad's mistress. He didn't want me to get a penny from the will," Lovely said with a bitter smile. "What?" Farah gasped. "Hans, is this true? Why would Dad leave her anything if—" Hans began, but Farah cut him off. "Wake up, Hans. Don't insult your father's judgment. We both agreed to leave her something because she deserved it. She's a good person. We saw how hard she worked despite everything. While you were in the States, we treated her like our own." Hans couldn't speak. Shame settled over him like a storm cloud. "You've broken someone's dreams because of what you did," Farah whispered, tearful. "How could you, Hans? We raised you better than this." "Mom." A small voice interrupted the tension. All heads turned toward the door where Ellie stood. Farah's jaw dropped slightly, tears springing to her eyes as she looked at the little girl. She looks like Hans," she whispered, visibly shaken. Ellie's presence pierced the air. "She's one of the biggest reasons I gave up on finishing school," Lovely admitted tearfully. "I chose to become a mother to her instead. You're right, Hans. She is your daughter. Our daughter. But after everything you did, do you really think you deserve to be called her father?" Farah wept openly now. Hans stood in silence, head lowered. He was overwhelmed by the weight of everything. In the days that followed, Hans didn't know how to talk to his mother, who was clearly upset with him. He also didn't know how to make things right with Lovely, who now hated him for everything he'd said and done. And Ellie? He couldn't stop thinking about her, his daughter. Then one day, as he saw Lovely leaving the house in her fast food waitress uniform, presumably after walking Ellie to school, he stepped forward. "Lovely, can we please talk?" She turned, visibly annoyed. "Hans, when will you stop? Please. I know you and Ellie are doing fine, but I wasn't there. I disappeared, and I judged you. I hurt you. I know I don't deserve anything after what I did, but I want to get to know her, our daughter." Lovely stopped walking and faced him. "Did you ever really love me, Hans? Or did you only come close because you believed those rumors about your father and me?" Hans exhaled deeply. "At first, I did wonder if there was something going on, but once I got to know you, I realized I was wrong. You became someone special to me." He paused, searching her face. But when Dad passed, and I saw you included in his will, I panicked. I doubted you again. I was confused, frustrated. I told myself I didn't want to get used, but deep down, I think I was just scared. Scared that maybe you didn't really love me back. You didn't trust me, Lovely said, her voice shaking. That night I gave myself to you. You know what that cost me. And yet, after everything, you believed I would ever be with your father? How could you think that of me? Especially knowing how kind your parents were to me. She was crying now. How can I trust you again, Hans? How do I know you won't do something else that'll hurt me and our daughter? Without a word, Hans dropped to his knees in front of her, his eyes full of tears. You lost so much because of me. I was young and immature, but that doesn't excuse what I did. If I hadn't been so close-minded, maybe you could have reached your dreams. Maybe I could have helped raise our child. Maybe we could have had a real family. Lovely closed her eyes, visibly shaken. I know you're scared, but I'm not asking for forgiveness overnight. I just want to be a part of our daughter's life. Please, Lovely. She took a long breath. Come back tonight, she said, in a trembling voice. I'll introduce you to her. Hans looked up at her, stunned. He stood, visibly emotional, and hugged her lightly. Her heart pounded. She gently pushed him away and turned quickly, walking off before he could say anything else. Hans stood there, smiling through tears. Finally, after days of pleading, she was letting him in. That evening, Hans returned to their modest home. His heart raced as he imagined how their daughter would react. When they let him inside, Ellie sat in the living room, wide-eyed. Mum, why is the handsome man here again? Are we going to be friends now? She asked innocently. Lovely sat beside her daughter and gently took her hand. Sweetheart, remember when you asked me about your dad? Ellie nodded. You said I didn't have one, that some kids don't. Well, his name is Hans, she said softly. And he's your dad. Ellie's smile vanished. Her eyes darted between Hans and her mother. But you said I didn't have a dad, she whispered. You told me lying was bad, Mom. I know, Lovely said, tears building in her eyes. I didn't want to lie to you. You were too young to understand. I was scared. But it's still lying, Ellie said, now crying. Ellie, sweetheart. Hans knelt in front of her and gently placed a hand on her small shoulder. Don't be mad at your mom. She was just trying to protect you. I'm the one who made the mistake. I should have been here. I should have known you. Please don't be mad at her. Ellie turned to her mother, who was silently crying now too. Sorry, Mom, she whispered. Lovely smiled softly and pulled her daughter into a tight hug. No, I'm sorry. I really am. He wants to get to know you, Lovely added gently, stepping back to give them space. You can get to know each other better. Ellie sniffled and turned back to Hans. Are you really my dad? Hans smiled and nodded. Can I hug you? The little girl didn't answer. She simply stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him. Hans gently held her, tears falling silently down his cheeks. Why did it take so long? Ellie asked. I waited for a dad for a long time. I didn't have one. Are you leaving again? Hans shook his head. Never. I'll be with you now. I'll do everything I can to give you the life you deserve. Please forgive me. Lovely stood nearby, watching the emotional reunion. Despite everything, something about it felt right. She didn't know how long they all sat crying together. But when the tears faded, Ellie's bubbly spirit returned. Dad, are you going to live with us now? Are you going to take me to school? Mom works a lot and can't always do that. I'm a good kid at school. I don't fight. I listen to my teacher. I have lots of friends. Lovely chuckled at her daughter's excitement. Not right away, Hans said gently. But I'll visit you every day. I'll take you to school and pick you up if that's what you want. Yay! Ellie said excitedly. I'm going to introduce you to my friends and my teacher. She's really pretty and nice. Lovely nearly choked. Hans snuck a glance at her and smiled as she quickly looked away. I'll go get dinner ready, she said, heading to the kitchen. Dad, will you eat with us? And sleep here tonight? I can sing you and Mom our favorite song so you both sleep well. Hans hesitated. He didn't want to push his luck, but for his daughter, he'd do anything. So he simply nodded. After dinner, the three of them rested a bit in the living room. Ellie, as usual, chattered endlessly. Hans didn't mind. He soaked up every word, every facial expression. Ellie, it's late. Wash up. You have school tomorrow, Lovely reminded her. The girl groaned but obeyed. Lovely chuckled softly, noticing her daughter had washed up faster than ever. Dad, can you stay until I fall asleep? Ellie asked. Can you sleep beside me? Hans glanced nervously at Lovely. She exhaled deeply and gave a small nod. Yes, sweetie, Hans said, smiling. I'd love to. Come on, Dad, Ellie said excitedly, grabbing his hand. Mum's gonna sing our favorite bedtime song. She led both her parents into the small bedroom. Ellie flopped onto the center of the bed. Hans took his place on the left side, and Lovely hesitantly lay down on the right. The three of them now lay in a single bed, with their daughter between them, as if they had always been a family. Mum, you can start now, Ellie said cheerfully. Lovely brushed her daughter's hair back and began softly singing I'll Take Care of You, their bedtime song. It had become a nightly tradition. Lovely would start the song, and Ellie would finish it. As Lovely sang, Hans couldn't take his eyes off her. She noticed and felt herself grow nervous. I'll take care of you. I'll keep you safe. You are my refuge. Then Ellie joined in. You gave me life, a life so beautiful, dreams I long to reach. Hans's eyes welled up as he listened. Watching them sing together struck something deep inside him. That lullaby had been a symbol of something sacred between him and Lovely years ago. It brought back memories of their night together. As Lovely gently ran her fingers through Ellie's hair, the little girl slowly drifted off to sleep. Even Hans, lying still beside her, found himself dozing under the warmth of the moment. Lovely looked over and saw Hans had fallen asleep. She quietly got up and tiptoed out of the room. Just as she stepped into the living room, Hans followed. Love, he called gently. Lovely froze. He hadn't called her that in years. It had been his nickname for her when they were together. My name is Lovely, she corrected, continuing toward the living room. But your name is Love, too, and I prefer calling you that, he said softly, following her into the space. Once they were in the room, Hans sat across from her. When I heard Ellie singing that song at school, you were the first person who came to mind, he admitted. I didn't think she was my daughter, but when I saw her face, my heart raced. They say it's instinct, blood recognizing blood. I think I felt that. Lovely kept quiet. When I heard you sing again, it was bittersweet. I remembered everything we had. I threw all that away. I lost you because I believed lies. I know there's no undoing that. He looked up, his expression serious. But thank you for letting me into her life. Silence stretched between them. There are still so many what-ifs in my head, Hans continued. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I'm not saying this for pity. I just want to make up for everything. I want to bring happiness to you both, and I hope, someday, maybe you'll sing to me again. Lovely swallowed hard. She didn't know how to respond. It's getting late, she said. I should get some rest. Hans smiled gently and stood. All right, I'll see you tomorrow. Love, good night. He walked toward the door and left. Once she was alone, Lovely took a deep breath. Her hands trembled. She was frustrated with herself. Hans had only recently returned to their lives, and yet he already stirred something in her. Why did he still have that effect on her? The next day, Hans was already waiting outside their house before they even woke up. As soon as Lovely opened the door, she saw him standing there with breakfast bags. "Good morning," he said with a smile. "I brought breakfast." "Morning," she replied, still sleepy. "Is anyone taking Ellie to school today?" he asked. "I mean, I could. I don't have anything scheduled until next week, when I start training to manage the businesses here." Lovely didn't respond. She just nodded silently. "Dad!" Ellie squealed with joy, running toward him. Hans knelt down and caught her in a warm hug. "You look so beautiful in your school uniform. Why do you smell so good? Do you already have a boyfriend?" Hans teased. Ellie giggled. "Dad, I want to grow up first. When I'm big like Mum, then I'll get a boyfriend." Hans frowned. "No boys till you're 50, he said seriously. "Hey, Dad was just kidding. You're still too young for that," Lovely said, giving him an eye. "Let's eat breakfast. Then I'll take you to school and keep an eye on you, okay?" "Yes." Ellie nodded quickly. The three of them ate breakfast together. Afterward, they rested briefly before heading out. As they were about to leave, Hans noticed Lovely walking off toward the road. "Where are you going?" he asked, confused. "I'm going to work," she replied. "Didn't you say you were taking Ellie today?" "I'll take you too," Hans offered. "Let's drop Ellie off at school first, then I'll take you to work. I'll come back and pick her up after class." "Hans, you don't need to. It's a waste of gas." "I insist," he said firmly. She sighed, finally agreeing. They rode quietly in the car. Lovely couldn't understand why just being beside him had such a strong effect on her. Once they arrived at school, all three got out. Hans lifted Ellie in his arms as they walked to the classroom. "Be good in class, all right?" "I'll come back to pick you up after I take Mom to work," Hans told her. "Okay, Dad. Be careful." Ellie waved happily. "After class, can we go to the mall? You promised toys." Hans laughed. Of course." "Behave, sweetie," Lovely added. They walked back to the car. The silence returned. Occasionally, Hans glanced at her, but she ignored it. "How long have you been working at that place?" he asked. "Since I got pregnant with Ellie," she replied. "So you left the mansion right after I did?" Hans asked. "What would I stay for?" she countered, her voice cold. He had no response. "When you gave birth, who watched Ellie when you worked?" he asked again. "At first, my friend Macy, her godmother, helped, but 2 years ago, she left for Taiwan. Since then, I've taken Ellie with me to work." Hans felt another pang of guilt. He knew it couldn't have been easy. "I think it's time you thought about yourself, love," Hans said gently. "What do you mean?" "I mean, you've sacrificed so much. Let me take care of Ellie now. Let me give back." Lovely's heart raced. "You don't owe me anything," she replied. "If you want to make it up to someone, make it up to Ellie." "I know, but you had dreams too. Dreams you gave up because of me. I want to help you reach them. I can cover Ellie's needs now, and maybe I can help get you a full scholarship again, if you'll let me." Lovely knew he meant well, but something in his words stung. "Since the day I gave birth to Ellie, my only dream has been to be a good mother to her and help her reach hers," she said firmly. Hans fell silent. They had arrived at the fast food place. She quickly got out and walked inside. Hans sighed heavily, watching her go. He wasn't going to give up. He knew he couldn't change the past, but he could create better memories now, starting with their daughter. In the following days, Hans did everything he could to make up for the years he had lost. His efforts were nothing short of intense. he regularly took Ellie and Lovely out, whether to the mall, to eat out, to watch movies, or simply to spend time together. He often used Ellie as an excuse just to be around Lovely more. Even when he started training for managing the family's farms, sugar mills, and other businesses, he always carved out time to be with them. One afternoon, as Hans waited outside Lovely's workplace with Ellie, he overheard something. "Bye, Lovely. See you tomorrow," a woman called out cheerfully. Hans stood up from the bench he was sitting on just as Ellie ran toward her mom. "Mom!" Ellie shouted excitedly. "Lovely, your husband and kid are so good-looking," teased her co-worker with a playful tone. Lovely's face flushed red. "What's he doing here?" she muttered as Hans approached. "After Ellie's class, we went to the mall. Then she said she wanted to see you, so here we are. We waited for you," Hans explained casually. Lovely nodded, barely reacting. "Dad, lying is bad," Ellie suddenly blurted out. "You said you missed Mom. That's why we're here." Hans coughed, caught off guard. Lovely's cheeks burned. "Ooh, lying is bad," her co-worker squealed, clearly entertained. "Lovely, your husband is so cute." "Thanks," Hans replied with a smile, leaving Lovely speechless. "Let's go," he added, grabbing Lovely's bag quickly. She didn't argue. That night, Hans took care of dinner. Lovely had barely entered the house when he asked her to get changed and rest. Hans and Ellie headed to the kitchen. Lovely couldn't help smiling from the living room as she listened to the two of them laughing and playing in the kitchen. It made her heart feel full. When dinner was ready, Hans proudly announced, "Dinner's up." Lovely walked over, curious, only to see fried eggs and hot dogs slightly burnt on the table. "You said dinner," she said, blinking. "Why does this look like breakfast?" Hans scratched his head, embarrassed. "I haven't practiced cooking yet, and I figured you always do the cooking even when you're tired. I just wanted to help. I'll do better next time." Lovely laughed softly. "Hans, I can see you're trying. You don't have to do things you're not good at. But I appreciate it. I really do." Hans bit his lower lip and smiled. Her words felt like a step forward. "I'll keep trying," he replied, his eyes full of hope. "Let's eat. It's a simple meal, but it's from the heart." "Is it good, sweetie?" Hans asked Ellie. She puckered her lips and shook her head. "Dad, the egg is salty. Sorry, but lying is bad." Lovely burst out laughing. Weeks passed quickly. Hans had only been back in their lives for a short time, yet he brought so much joy. Even Lovely couldn't deny it anymore. After dinner, Ellie begged again for Hans to stay and put her to sleep. He agreed. As Lovely sang their nightly lullaby, she noticed Hans had fallen asleep beside their daughter. He looked peaceful, content. She knew he had been working hard, and she didn't want to disturb him. She let him rest. The next morning, Lovely stirred when she felt warm breath against her cheek. She opened her eyes and was shocked to find Hans still beside her, arms loosely around her. "Mum, Dad, I'm going to be late for school." Ellie's voice rang out. Hans woke up too, smiling as he saw Lovely's face first thing in the morning. "Sorry, sweetie," Lovely said, quickly sitting up. "Go wash up. I'll get your stuff ready." "Good morning," Hans said with a soft tone. "I fell asleep here. You didn't wake me." "I thought you might be tired from work," she replied. "Thanks, love," he whispered. Her heart skipped again at the sound of that name. They hurried through the morning routine, trying to make up for the lost time. Soon, it became normal for Hans to come over in the mornings. He'd bring breakfast, walk Ellie to school with Lovely, then drop Lovely off at work. In the afternoons, he and Ellie would pick her up. Sometimes, Hans would bring them to the mansion for lunch or dinner with his family. Lovely couldn't deny the slight bitterness she felt from time to time, remembering the past, but she also couldn't ignore Hans's constant effort. One afternoon, on the way home, Hans spoke gently. "Sweetheart, please talk to your dad already," he said, sounding playful. Lovely furrowed her brows. She had noticed the silence between Hans and Ellie earlier too, and it was unlike her daughter to be so quiet. "Why aren't you talking to your dad, sweetheart?" she asked. "He's mad at me," Hans said jokingly, "but I don't even know why." Lovely raised a brow. "Why are you saying sorry if you don't even know what you did?" "Exactly," Hans said, confused. "But maybe I did something. If she's upset, it must be my fault." Lovely giggled under her breath. "Ellie, what happened? Why are you mad at your dad?" she asked gently. "Because teacher said she has a crush on Dad." Ellie pouted. "I thought I was teacher's favorite. I'm good at school, nice, hard-working, polite, smart, but she said she likes Dad." Hans almost burst out laughing, but held it in. Lovely bit back a smile. "Sweetheart, a crush is just admiration. Maybe teacher just thinks your dad is hard-working." "But she always holds his hand," Ellie protested. "No one else touches me like that." Lovely turned sharply toward Hans. "She touches your hand?" Hans blinked. "Love, it's not what you think. Sometimes she tries, but I always pull away. Right, Ellie?" "Yup, sometimes she even strokes Dad's arm," Ellie confessed. "She asked me if I wanted her to be my new mum." Lovely's jaw dropped. "I'm talking to her tomorrow," she said sharply. "No need for that," Hans replied quickly, thinking she was jealous. She gave him a look. "This isn't about jealousy, it's about boundaries. You don't say things like that to a child." Hans stayed quiet, clearly agreeing. "I'll come with you," he finally offered. Lovely smirked to herself. She suspected he was happy she was jealous, even just a little. She didn't want to admit it, but seeing him so affected by her mood made her heart flutter. That night, after preparing dinner, they all ate together. Ellie returned to being her bubbly self, but Hans noticed Lovely still wasn't talking to him directly. "I'll go ahead, love," Hans said later that evening, ready to leave after putting Ellie to bed. "Take care," she said shortly, opening the door. Before she could shut it, Hans gently grabbed her arm. "Earlier, Ellie was the one avoiding me. Now it feels like you are." "I'm not," she said, trying to pull away. "Are you jealous of Ellie's teacher?" he asked bluntly. "Me? What kind of question is that?" she replied defensively. Hans smiled softly. "As much as I love seeing you jealous, I don't want to hurt your feelings. I know I've done enough of that already. If something's bothering you, anything, I hope you'll tell me. I want to make things right. Always." Lovely sighed. "I don't know, Hans. I'm scared." "Scared of what?" "From the moment I met you, I felt like I didn't belong in your world. You're rich. I'm nothing. You're handsome. I'm plain. You were like a star, and I could only admire you from afar." Her voice cracked. "So when you actually fell for me, I couldn't believe it, and when you left, it just proved I was right to doubt." Hans stepped closer and pulled her into a hug. "I get it now," he whispered. "I failed you back then. I didn't give you assurance. I let fear win. Yes, I come from money, but none of that matters. Everything I have, everything I am, it's for you and our daughter. I don't deserve either of you, but I want to try to be worthy of you." Lovely said nothing, overwhelmed. Hans gently cupped her face and lowered his lips to hers. Lovely didn't pull away. She let him kiss her. She wasn't sure how long it lasted, but it felt right. "I'm sorry," Hans whispered. "For what?" she asked, breathless. "For not waiting. I told myself I'd earn your trust first, but I'm already kissing you." Lovely bit her lip and looked away. "You should go, Hans. Let's talk tomorrow." Hans smiled. "Good night, love." She closed the door behind him, leaning against it, her heart pounding. She touched her lips, still warm from his kiss. Back inside, Hans couldn't stop smiling during the drive home. Neither could Lovely, lying in bed, still wide awake. The next morning, as they had discussed, Lovely decided to talk to Ellie's teacher. When they entered the classroom, Hans carried Ellie while holding Lovely's hand. As they walked in together, they looked exactly like a complete, happy family. "Miss," Lovely said calmly, "could I speak with you for a moment?" "About what?" the teacher asked with a polite smile, though her eyes kept flicking toward Hans. Noticing that, Hans immediately tightened his hold on Lovely's hand. Lovely couldn't help but feel a surge of satisfaction when she saw the teacher's smile disappear. "My daughter told me you've been saying things to her like, 'You have a crush on her dad,'" Lovely said, her voice calm but steady, "and that you've asked her if she wanted you to be her new mom. I'm her mother. While you may be her teacher, and therefore like a second mother while she's in your care, I don't think it's appropriate for you to share personal fantasies with a child." The teacher looked mortified. "I was just joking, ma'am." "Joking?" Lovely raised a brow. "How old are you exactly? You think it's okay to make jokes like that to a child?" The teacher stayed silent. "And not just that," Lovely continued. "My daughter sees you touching her dad's hand and arm frequently. That's not a good example to set. I didn't say anything before because I didn't want to make a scene. I'm not a jealous woman, but I'm also not okay with anyone confusing my daughter." Hans spoke next, firm and direct. "If this happens again, my wife and I will go straight to the principal." The teacher's face flushed deeply with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry. It won't happen again." "Let's go, love," Hans said, turning to Lovely and gently leading her away, still holding her hand tightly. Lovely bit her lower lip, stunned at how confidently he had referred to her as love in front of someone else. Once they were in the car, she finally spoke. "Why did you call me your wife?" "Because that's where we're headed anyway. People might as well get used to it," he said with a grin. "The future Mrs. Hidalgo is kind of scary when she's mad, though." She let out a small cough to cover her flustered expression. "Take the day off," he added. "Let's go on a date. Just us. Please, give me today while our daughter's at school. Let me have you all to myself." Lovely turned away, hiding her smile. She gave a small nod. That moment said more than words. Days passed, then weeks, then months. Eventually, Hans and Lovely made their relationship official. Legally official. His family couldn't have been happier, especially his mother, Farah, who had long hoped Hans would marry someone like Lovely. She had always seen her as a kind, hard-working, and humble woman. She also loved that Ellie would finally have a complete family. One evening, Hans led Lovely by the hand, her eyes covered with a blindfold. "Where are we going?" she asked, laughing nervously. "Just trust me," he said. Though they were officially a couple now, Hans hadn't changed. If anything, he had become even sweeter. "Okay, we're here," he said. "You can take it off now." Lovely removed the blindfold and gasped. They were at the mansion's poolside, which had been transformed into a romantic dinner setting. Candlelight flickered on the table, and rose petals were scattered around the area. "What's all this?" she asked, wide-eyed. "Why the fancy setup?" "We've been busy lately. I thought it wouldn't hurt to surprise my wife," Hans said with a warm smile. "You remember when Ellie said we had a surprise for you?" Lovely nodded slowly. "Well, we planned this. It took a while, but I hope you still like it." Just then, music began to play softly in the background, romantic and calming. They ate dinner under the stars, talking and laughing like they used to. When they finished eating, Hans extended a hand. "May I have this dance?" Lovely laughed, a bit embarrassed, but she took his hand, and together they swayed gently to the music. I've made a lot of mistakes, Hans murmured as they danced, but I'm happy we're here now. You let me back into your life, and our daughters. I'll never be perfect, but I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to deserve this. There's no such thing as perfect, Lovely replied. We're human. We make mistakes. What matters is what we learn from them. You're right, Hans nodded. I wasted so many years. That's why I don't want to waste any more time. Suddenly, he knelt in front of her and pulled out a ring. I'm not promising I'll never hurt you. Sometimes we hurt the ones we love, even when we don't mean to, but I'm going to do everything I can to avoid that. I'll love you, take care of you, and of all the children we'll have together. I want to spend every day and every night with you. Will you be my wife? Tears filled Lovely's eyes as she nodded repeatedly, too choked up to speak. Hans stood, slipped the ring on her finger, then kissed her deeply. A loud round of cheers startled them both. They looked up to see Hans's entire family watching from the mansion's balcony. His mother stood proudly, holding Ellie, who clapped along with the others, her face lit with joy. Sometimes the dreams we start with in life change. That was true for Lovely. Her dream had once been to finish school, to become a teacher, but now her dream had shifted, to be a loving wife and to raise a happy, healthy family, to see her children grow up and achieve their dreams. After just a month of preparation, Hans and Lovely officially tied the knot. The wedding came quickly because Hans couldn't wait any longer to legally make her his wife. The ceremony was joyful and overflowing with love. They decided to stay at the mansion for the first few months of marriage, while their new home was being completed. Life as husband and wife wasn't always easy, but they found more moments of happiness than hardship. Almost 2 years later, their love bore fruit again. Lovely gave birth to a healthy baby girl. They named her Eliza. If anything had changed in their relationship, it was only for the better. They loved each other even more. Their bond deepened. Their family became stronger. Their story served as a reminder. People make mistakes, and that's part of being human. But what's not acceptable is refusing to own up to those mistakes or doing nothing to make them right. That was just one of the many lessons they had learned, and one they knew would guide them through whatever challenges life would bring. And hopefully, through their story, you've learned something too. Thank you so much for listening. This is Mr. Hope, and blessings to you all.